What is going on, dudes of Foxy Dudettes? We've had some heavy subject matter over the past couple weeks, and today I want to lighten it up. In honor of Batman Day being tomorrow, I am going to rank all 13 Batman films that have been released theatrically, so stay tuned. Okay, so let's lay some ground rules. First and foremost, theatrical Batman movies. If you are a fan of Batman, you know that there have been a ton of Batman movies released, direct-to-video, like animated features. We're not just sticking to animated features in this list, but these are only going to be the ones that have been released in the theater. We're also going to avoid anything where he's not the star or has his name in the title. So, for instance, Zack Snyder's Justice League is not going to be in this list. The Flash is not going to be on this list. Suicide Squad is not going to be on this list. All very good movies, but they don't, even though Batman's in them, they are not starring Batman. So, I mean, technically Justice League is kind of, but because it's an ensemble thing and the other two he's not really a star in, we're not counting those. Also too, my list, my choices, believe me, it was very hard to put this list in order, being as how big of a Batman fan I am. So I'm going to start off with an honorable mention, and I'm going to explain why I'm doing an honorable mention. I don't feel right ranking or placing Batman 66, the movie with Adam West and Burt Ward, in this list. I don't feel right ranking it. So we're going to leave that as an honorable mention. You know, say what you will about the campy tone or whatever negative thing you have to say about it. Those portrayals, you know, really got us into loving Batman. Chances are that was your stepping stone into Batman, and it just doesn't feel right to place it in a certain number. So we're going to leave that as an honorable mention. It is counted as part of the 13, but like I said, we're leaving it as an honorable mention. So coming in dead last on this list will be The Batman with Robert Pattinson. If you guys saw my review on it, you guys know I wasn't a big fan of the movie. I just don't think he makes a good Batman. I didn't like the direction it took. It kind of felt like Nolan fan fiction. The best standout character to me in the movie was Gotham City. I think this, out of all the Batman movies, this accurately portrayed Gotham City the best way. And I did love the Batman theme song. You know, every time it came on, it was doom, doom, doo doom, doom, doo doom. I love that. I thought that was great. But other than that, I was very underwhelmed with this movie. Next up on the list, we have the Lego Batman movie. We're getting them out of the way, guys. Next on the list, Batman and Robin. I'm sure a lot of people thought that this would be bottom of the list, but I think that the two I mentioned before can secure that place there. Batman and Robin, to me, is not my favorite Batman movie. I don't think it's anybody's favorite Batman and Robin movie, or Batman movie, I should say. But, you know, George Clooney, he did a good job as, like, showing the human side of Bruce Wayne, and that's pretty much it. That was the range of his, I would say the range of his Batman. I didn't think his Batman was particularly great, but his human side of Bruce Wayne was good, you know, dealing with a sick Alfred. But the rest of the movie, it's too long, it's a little overstuffed with some, like, neon gangs and such as left over from Batman Forever, and, you know, a complete missed opportunity, and we don't need to dwell on it anymore. And speaking of Batman Forever, here it is. You know, a lot of people do like Batman Forever, but it's definitely different from the other two Tim Burton movies. It was in that weird place of trying to be something different while trying to capture what the Burton movies did. The problem is, for me at least, I like Jim Carrey, but he played more of a Joker than a Riddler here. Although sometimes you can actually see, like, the Frank Gorshin inspiration in his face and his facial expressions, which is cool. But again, some neon stuff. This was also directed by Joel Schumacher. He kept it serious enough that it's passable, but you could tell he wanted to make it a little bit more campy. You could kind of see some of the influences that influenced Batman and Robin, starting with this. And it's okay. It's the first time we get a live action Robin, but there are better movies on this list, and we're going to talk about them. The next entry on this list may surprise some of you for a few different reasons. Batman: The Killing Joke. So some of you may be surprised and thinking, wait, wasn't that just released to video? No, actually it was a Fathom event. It was released theatrically. I think they had 1 or 2 nights, and I went to see it myself. The other people that are surprised are like, yeah, but that's trash. They didn't really adapt the story right, and they had Batman and Batgirl have sex, and I hear you. Being a fan and a huge fan of the comic book that this is inspired from, The Killing Joke. The Killing Joke was a very short comic book. It wasn't a very long book, and therefore it made it very hard to adapt into like a 70-minute feature. So they had to adapt and add a new story to it, which angered some fans. I understand, the first part of the movie doesn't really have much to do except showing, how active that Barbara Gordon could be, or was as Batgirl, and then to show her get injured. If you're not familiar with the story, the Joker paralyzes her. He paralyzes Batgirl, and then she's not able to be Batgirl anymore. So I've always thought that the first part of the story was to make you sympathize a little more with Barbara Gordon, seeing that, how athletic she was and what she could do, and then all of a sudden that's taken away from her. But to the rest of the movie, it's a great movie. I enjoyed it. Even the first part, it didn't bother me. You get Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and Tara Strong reunited from their Batman the Animated Series days. And, rest in peace to Kevin. He was the best. He had a voice like no other. But it's a good story. I think at least the second half is a good adaptation of The Killing Joke. But it's definitely worth checking out. Another controversial listing. I can already hear you guys in the comments, but it's my list. I'm going to do me. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I personally like this movie. I know some of you are probably thinking it should be lower on the list, first of all. Or, how come, with Superman in it, how does it count? And it's because Batman is a co-star. I mean, his name is in the title, and Ben Affleck is a co-star. He's Batman in it, okay? The whole movie is Batman and Superman together in a movie. And I like the movie. I think the Ultimate Edition is better. That was the one that was released with home video. Definitely check it out. I do believe it's streaming on Max. So guys, definitely give it a shot. I don't understand the hate that this movie gets. I never did. I never will, to be honest. But it has probably the greatest live action Batman fight. The Batman warehouse scene. If you know, you know. A great fight sequence. Also, too, just a fun disclaimer, fun note. I think The Flash has the second greatest one with Michael Keaton in it, fighting the Russians in that. If you haven't seen The Flash, check it out. But I digress a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a great movie. Definitely worth checking out. Don't understand the hate it gets. I don't think you guys understand how hard this is for me. This is like choosing your favorite child. I don't have children, don't plan on having any, but I can imagine if you had to rank your children in your favorite order or order of the day, it would be extremely hard. This next one, I know I'm probably going to get some hate for this, but I got to do it. Batman, 1989 with Michael Keaton. Now, I love this movie. I love the last movie. Like I said, I love most of these movies on this list. The only one I'm not too fond of is the Lego Batman movie and the Batman with Robert Pattinson, but I digress. I do have a lot of love for this movie, even though it's not that high on the list. You guys just had to be there in the summer of '89 when this was released. I was in New York City and everything was Batman. If you guys think that like the Avengers and Marvel has hype now, you guys don't know hype like there was back in '89 when this movie was coming out. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing this logo. I mean, this exact logo was on cups and the Times Square billboards, and it was all over the place. And that being said, you know, the soundtrack was great. It all done by Prince. Again, rest in peace, Prince. But still, a great movie. It's just they've done some better ones since then. And, you know, to be fair, this is another movie that got the Batmania, or the popularity of Batman, to another level. And this movie is responsible for that popularity not dwindling since 1989. This is the movie that did it. So you got to show respect to it. And it is a good movie. Still fun, still adventurous. Jack Nicholson is an amazing Joker. Michael Keaton is still a great Batman. But there are some better movies that have come out since then. And so I got to place it where I do. But it's with heavy heart that I do. So I feel bad about placing this movie here. We're getting towards the end, but I want you guys to know how hard it was for me. I'm like going through these movies and I'm like, oh, I feel bad about placing Batman at the last spot. I feel bad about placing this movie here, but then I looked and thought about it and I'm like, I'm doing the right thing. At least I think so. You guys may disagree. You can let me know in the comments. But next on the list, The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I love Christopher Nolan's trilogy. The Dark Knight trilogy, in my opinion, is the greatest superhero trilogy ever. It beats out the Captain America trilogy, the Iron Man trilogy, Spider-Man. I loved the first two Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but the third one fell off for me. That's a whole other story. But, you know, as good as Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, as good as those were, The Dark Knight Rises comes damn close. I mean, it's right up there. But there was a couple of choices made in it for me that really make me, you know, I have a hard time choosing which of the two, which we'll talk about in a little bit, of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, which one I like better. But I can definitely say I like both of those better than this one, even though I love this one. And the reason being is just the story a little bit. You know, Batman Begins set up, obviously, Batman beginning his career. Dark Knight says it's been a year. This movie says, and if you remember the end of Dark Knight, before I go on, if you remember the end of Dark Knight, you know, he goes into exile, he quits, kind of. They imply that he's on the outs with the police, but then they say that he hasn't been seen in 8 years, and that people still think about him, and that in my head just doesn't work. Like, if a guy was around for like a year and then disappeared for 8, nobody's really gonna remember him. So it kind of just took the wind out of the sails a little bit. But still an awesome movie. Some great action scenes. I did love the character of Bane. I love the twist at the end with Talia al Ghul being one of the main villains. I liked Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. Christian Bale is great as always as Batman. But as a big Batman fan, I also have a problem with Batman walking away and retiring and giving up. You know, to me, my personal opinion, always end the movie as, you know, he's got more time left. There's always another day, another adventure, even if, you know, we don't get to see it. But that's just my personal opinion. Another movie I feel bad about placing where it's going to get placed. At number 4, Batman Returns. Now, you guys got to understand, this is a huge nostalgic kick for me. It's one of my favorite childhood memories was my mother and my grandmother taking me to go see this the summer when I turned 8. I had broken my arm and I had missed the summer pretty much. I was stuck in a cast, so I couldn't go swimming or do any of those fun things that you do during the summer. And this was one of the things that I looked forward to the most. And, you know, them taking me to go see this movie that I was so excited to go see, it really brings back memories. And you know, I think of that every time I see this movie. Not to mention, you know, I watch it every Christmas. You know, I would get action figures and toys and other gifts from family members, and more specifically my mom and my grandma. So this movie holds a lot for me. And still, I think Michelle Pfeiffer is the best. Catwoman, I like Danny DeVito a whole lot more than Colin Farrell as Penguin. You know, Michael Keaton, again, he was an amazing Batman. I was so glad to hear that after, you know, 30 years he came back for The Flash, but I digress. This was a great movie, a lot of fun. Different than Batman 89. I think this movie has more replay value. I've watched it a ton of times more than Batman 89, even though I love Batman 89 too. As you can see me here, I'm trying to say I love them all. I'm here. I'm showing them respect, but I do love this movie. Getting down to the top 3, guys, and this one may surprise people, may anger some people, but, you know, it is what it is. The Dark Knight. Now, like I said before, I have a hard time choosing between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. When people ask me what I think is the better or the best out of Christopher Nolan's movies, you know, like I said before, I can definitely say Dark Knight Rises would come in third, but what comes in 1 and 2 between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight is tough for me. And I boil it down to this. The reason why it came in third is the ending. It didn't really, you know, it bothers me that how they ended The Dark Knight with Bruce taking the blame for Harvey Dent's murders. The Dark Knight, as an overall movie, is better than Batman Begins. But as a Batman movie, I think Batman Begins kind of, you know, it does some things better for the character of Batman than The Dark Knight did, if that makes sense. Coming in at number 2, let's just get this out of the way. Batman Begins. Now, like I said before, I think that The Dark Knight is a 100% better movie than Batman Begins. But as a Batman movie, I think Batman Begins touches on some things for the character that The Dark Knight doesn't. You really get to see the how and a little more in depth of why Bruce becomes Batman. You know, it is about his parents, but it's more about Gotham, the injustice. He's trying to fight injustice, trying to clean it up, and just the lengths that he has to go to that, you know, I don't think has been explored too many other times in the films. Again, Dark Knight covered some of this again, but all that foundation was built by this movie. So for that, I got to put this at number 2. And coming in at number 1, Batman Mask of the Phantasm. You know, this movie really surprised a lot of people. It had the same voice cast and crew too, from Batman the Animated Series. You know, Kevin Conroy is Batman, Mark Hamill is the Joker. It's a murder mystery. It has a twist, and not only does it have a twist ending, but it also shows, again, it shows a story of Bruce training to become Batman. A story that everybody knows. His parents gets killed. He decides that he's going to fight so that doesn't happen to anybody else again, so he's got to train. But this takes the perspective of a different part of his training. Like, he's already training, getting ready to become Batman. He just hasn't figured out that he's going to be Batman yet. He knows what he wants to do. He's just not there yet at how he's going to do it. And in the midst of all that, he falls in love with somebody, and they make him question his choice. And I think we all can relate to, you know, being on a certain path and somebody comes along and it makes you question your choices. And that's what happens in here. We get to see him falter to the point where he almost didn't become Batman, but circumstances leads to obviously him still becoming Batman. And you know, she, you know, leaves his life, and chances and circumstances bring her back in, and he's brought with that question again of like, should I give this up to be happy? And if you've seen the movie, you know what happens. But I really think that it's such a different side of Batman that it's ever been done before. None of the other movies have touched on that side. I mean, they tried a little bit with Batman Begins with the Rachel Dawes character, but that was created for that movie, as is Andy Beaumont for this movie. But Mask of the Phantasm did that angle first, and I think they did it better than Batman Begins. You know, and just seeing, you know, it humanizes Batman to a point where we see, you know, the same thing that happens to us happened to him, to where, you know, a girl almost got him to stop being Batman. You know, like I said before, we've all had that in our life where a girl or somebody that we meet almost sets us on a different path, and for some reason or other it doesn't happen. Okay guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, you know, me running down this list of and ranking the Batman movies. Batman Day is tomorrow. Be sure to visit your local comic shop. Some of them are running sales. It's a great time if you're even a wee bit of a Batman fan and you want to like try to read comics or purchase movies or whatever. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff on sale. Now's the time to dip your toe in the water and become a Batman addict like I am. So with that being said, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the social media things. Help me fight the YouTube algorithm, ring the bell, and we're going to leave it there. So we will see you guys next time. Take care. Happy Batman Day. Peace. Do it for Gotham.